Tonight's episode, we're going to be discussing voting irregularities in different states. I am going to get a picture up in a second, and we're going live right now.
Insurance and State Farm, and mine's Country Financial. You can pay $3 extra a month for roadside assistance.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think I guess they're teaming up with, roadside assistance companies or something to make deals. But as far as all the insurance that I have, none of my insurance have that type of feature in it. But of course, I always get the cheapest insurance. That's what I always get. So that's why it probably doesn't have those type of things.
Yeah, it's really not that much more to do it. It's $3 to $5 extra a month. So with that, who would like to comment on my Seth Rich story to start out, and then we'll move on to other hot topics?
Well, it was, I'll comment, it was hey Albert, it was
Not much.
kind of, yeah, it was kind of innocuous story. It was played, it was played to the side, and it wasn't covered much. But Seth.
Well, today but today Fox News made a settlement with his family. So this is the point of the story. The point is that even though there are suspicious rumors surrounding his death, a top news organization took responsibility for spreading more rumors, which may be true, I might add, but were unfounded, and they actually, Seth Rich's parents sued them and won.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. That it was an innocuous situation. It was an unreported situation, or not underreported, but it took this long to get a settlement, and it's surprising that Fox News paid off something that was a slander or defamation, one or the other. I'm not sure, but it's a good thing. I was going to say it's a good thing that they finally got it right.
And I'm not sure if the parents even had that much, validity in somebody just developing a story about suspicions. But apparently they must have a good lawyer. John, what do you think?
Myself, I think that there was a lot of pressure on them to leave it alone, because it's also, the thing with the Seth Rich story is that it connects a story that basically the whole Russian collusion idea was that the Russians hacked and got information from Hillary Clinton, and they were trying to feed it to the Trumps, and that the Trump campaign worked together with the Russians to try and overthrow the election. Now, what's critical to that is if Seth Rich took a thumb drive or hard drive and not hard drive, but basically took a device, hooked it up to a computer, downloaded it, and then sent it to WikiLeaks or wherever. Julian Assange knows that this book debunks that whole thing, that whole story. It tears it to pieces. So in the beginning, the family was open to investigation, and then they changed. They got cold feet after a while. Now some may say, well, they just wanted to be done with this, and maybe it was leading nowhere. But the other angle is they were just pressured that things might happen to their family. What is official is that Hillary Clinton did approve of the plan. Basically, there was too much heat from her server issue, so she approved a plan like, let's accuse Russian collusion with the Trump campaign, because I need to take the heat off my own problems. And that was an official approved thing. The CIA got the note. They looked at it, and Mueller had it, and they disregarded it. In fact, they buried it.
But there was also, John, there was also a theory that Seth Rich was a rogue Democratic aide who had too much information, and he was going to go against the powers that be. And the reason that Joel and Mary Rich sued is because they said that their outrageous and extreme conduct in the coverage of their son's death was fueling damaging rumors about him. So it was kind of like a defamation thing.
he was upset about the Bernie Sanders situation and how the votes, and they were using this a Smartmatic system or the Dominion system, and so when they're tabulating all these votes, Bernie got ripped off. So Seth was very pissed off about that, whether he downloaded their information or not. He was very disillusioned because he was very patriotic and very passionate, like any of the Bernie followers, and he was just so pissed off that Hillary Clinton got all these votes. He was distraught, and the family knew this. So there are other issues to that. But if you mess around with the Democratic Party, they can shut you down in a lot of ways. They can press you, and you've seen that with the voting situation. People that are trying to step up against it, they get doxxed, they get threats, death threats, and they basically back down, or they'll change their story. So
I have a general question. If Seth Rich was working at the DNC headquarters, whether he was a mole or not, he still had to have some loyalty to the party itself.
Well, he was very loyal, and in fact, there's a lot of pictures of him where he's got the flag, or he's got the 4th of July outfit, like I think a hat or a shirt or something that has the flag on it. So he was very passionate, and like most young people, they're totally gung-ho, 110%. So when things go wrong, like most people at 40 or so, if there's an issue, they just go home, they have a beer, they watch TV, that's it. But young kids, they get riled up, and you saw that with BLM and the whole Antifa thing. People get really excited, they get out there, and if they feel betrayed, they're going to act out in extreme ways, whether it's sabotage or like downloading information, exposing it to the press, or going out and just burning down a city. A lot of it comes from passion. They're very, they feel betrayed. And so, it's like a lover that's scorned. You kind of act out in a way. But I don't think it was an acting out of anger. It was more just of like, I want to expose, some information. And so that's, the family says, they're trying to distance themselves from it. I think he has a brother, and there were death threats on him. So I think the family probably said, just pull the plug on this. There's nothing to gain with it, right? You're not going to bring him back. And who wants to risk?
And by the way, I did look up something. No, I thought we could just start out with a splash news story that
I wanted to have a
I just wanted to mention 2 more things before anyone else comments. He did grow up in a Jewish family in Nebraska, and there's not that many Jews in Nebraska. He was active in Jewish outreach. He worked for the Census Bureau. He worked for a poll-through company before moving to the DNC as the voter expansion data director. And then he had frequented a Lewis City bar that night where he left at closing time about 1:45, and he was shot several times, twice in the back, and died. But also there had been a struggle, his parents said. His hands were bruised, his knees were bruised, and his face was bruised. And so it was supposedly a robbery. But anyways, nobody knows because it was unsolved. That's it. I don't have anything more to say about it, but somebody else can.
My comments on John, that I agree that the young kids get riled up, but I disagree that only the young kids from the BLM and Antifa, like you mentioned. I think all young kids of every organization will get riled up, I mean, the Boogaloo, the Proud Boys, the White Power, they have young kids too, and they're I think every organization is at least guilty, to have at least a couple of their kids get riled up. It just happens to all evenly, I would say.
Well, yeah, I don't think John was talking about those groups we were discussing last week. He just meant in general. But the Rich family had been approached by Ed Budowski, a friend of Trump advisor Steve Bannon, who recommended Fox News and former homicide detective Rod Wheeler investigate his murder. Butowski said Wheeler had been recommended to him. The family gave Wheeler permission to investigate, even though they didn't hire him. And, you know, it was kind of a hot story, let's face it. Because in August of 2016, WikiLeaks announced a $20,000 reward for information about his murder, leading to a conviction. Then they increased it to $125,000. So it was kind of a hot story because it was in the middle of a political campaign, and he got killed, and he was in a familiar route, and it was rather surprising. Now, with that, it seems like the media this week is hinting that Trump hasn't really concluded his loss against Joe Biden, but he's being more subdued. And now Joe Biden has access to classified documents dealing with national security. Like, that's being handed over to him right now. So can people comment on that? And anyone can lead into a different topic now. It's an open floor. Let's go.
It couldn't be more of the same, I'd say. You shouldn't expect any big changes, or, Joe Biden's not going to bring any miracles. He's not going to make anything right. And, in America, there's a thing that we always have here in America. We never have enough money for healthcare, and we never have enough money for our schools. But we always have enough money for our military, that's for sure. And, things like that are going to remain the same like they always do. So there's not going to be any big difference that Joe Biden's going to do.
Well, Joe Biden nominated a Cuban-born Latino woman to become the head of the Department of Homeland Security this week. I'm sure she has to be confirmed in the Senate, though.
Well, it doesn't matter if he brings it white, black, green, purple, blue. It doesn't matter who he brings in. You know what I mean? Anybody can be puppet. Anybody can be a puppet. Anybody can, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you speak
How do you know
Spanish
she's going to be a puppet, though? He handpicked her because of the issues surrounding the Mexican border over the last 4 years. With that, we'll cut to John for a minute. John, what say you?
I say that there'll be a very extreme difference between whether Donald Trump prevails in his legal cases or whether Joe Biden prevails or succeeds. And here's what I mean. First of all, let's take policy. They're going to shut down everything. I mean, they want all the governors and mayors they're Democratic or in lockstep with Joe Biden. And you see with Gavin Newsom, you see with Gil Garcetti yesterday, he made a big speech like, we're going to shut everything down. And he said, because 10,000 more people could die. Do you want to see 10,000 people dead? Do you want to see empty, table, seats at your Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year? And he's just going on and on. We're going to have a long, dark winter. Now with Trump, we were having like we've got the vaccine, we got a cure. Let's keep things open. We can't close this economy. It's going to be the greatest economy of the world. Go, go, go. And you just go down the line. It's totally different philosophy. Trump is going to let's drain the swamp. Let's go after China. He's going to expose stuff. Biden is like, I'm going to get us back into Paris talks. I'm going to get us back with UN. You see Trudeau and all these leaders across the world. They're like, finally, America's back the way it used to be. We're going to go back to the
But Trump only has 2 months left on the job, John.
Well, that's a very interesting 2 months because what they're getting excited about is the GSA approving funds, federal funds. Now, if you're going from the perspective of believing what you hear on the media, they're saying the election's open. But what determines the presidency is what the Constitution states with a certified election. So here's the angle that Trump's going to take. They're going to take this to the Supreme Court. It doesn't matter if the states vote or how they do. We voted for anti-abortion laws. We voted against gay rights, transgender rights. We voted for prayer in schools and reading the Bible. And the Supreme Court took these little state rulings and said, no, it's invalid. You know, we will have this, we will have that. And it didn't matter what the states. So in other words, whatever we decide with this election, the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. And they're going to say, if this was an invalid election, if these votes, if there's fraud, if there's a wrongdoing, if the Dominion system is corrupt, they can throw it out and say, you know what, you've got to do it, you know, go through the House Representatives. And that's kind of the angle. With the GSA process, you have to disclose conflicts of interest to get the federal funds. This is, from one angle, you can disagree with. This is basically the trap. Biden is committing to say, hey, I don't have any conflicts of interest here with this laptop or with Dominion or with China or, you know, agreements with Hunter. And at that point, he's committed to go down this route. So there's kind of the angle. Just think of the two people representing Trump, or three. Lynn Wood, he represented Nicholas Sandmann. Remember how bad that situation was with CNN, and Nicholas was accused of attacking the Indian guy. And what happened with that? He took that case and won the $250 million settlement against CNN. He flipped the whole thing. Sidney Powell, what did she do? She had the Michael Flynn case. You remember his criminal was like, oh, he pleaded guilty. It's over. It's done. He was supposed to plead in front of the judge. And what happened with that one? They dropped the whole case. The judge is holding on to it, Sullivan. He won't let go of it. And there's no one to prosecute it. It's been appealed twice, and they said, drop it. And the judge won't. But the point is, she walked into a helpless situation and blew it out the water. She says she's going to blow up Georgia. And Wednesday, she's going to do a filing. She says she has information, major information on Dominion, on Sequoia, on the system, the HAAT system, on the cyber unit, on that they went to Frankfurt, Germany, and they grabbed the server. He didn't raid. She says she has this information. Now, here's the question. Did Sidney Powell just talk out of her ass and oh, I'm talking smack, and now I'm going to go into court because I made this big press conference, and it's like, I'm just making this up. I don't have anything. This is a person that has shot down the whole U.S. government on the Michael Flynn case. So I guess let me pose it to our panel of distinguished people. Do you think she's talking smack, or do you think she's going to throw down the hammer? Albert, Don, Jane?
Don, why don't you jump in? You haven't said anything.
Right, I'm just trying to listen to what everybody else is saying. Sidney Powell is, she's going to bring this stuff up. It's not going to make a difference. This election, Nevada just certified it today, and it's not going to make a difference. Yeah, so it's pretty much a done deal as far as the Electoral College votes are counted. So it's the Supreme Court, which is stacked, but we'll have to try to see if we can have the new lady, got her name already.
Tony Barrett? Amy Barrett?
Yeah, if we can have her recused for being too late in this case, then I don't think anything is going to change. The whole outcome is going to remain the same, and we're going to have to. What I'd like to do is establish some new election rules and regulations as to who can provide machines, things like that, because both parties had problems. Florida was, I don't know if you saw with Florida, was they called so early because they're essentially, they're saying up to 700,000 votes that weren't cast for reasons I don't even know. So, this is something that we're just going to have to get over this particular election, make the necessary reforms, and then move on from there. that City Hall, so she can bring all the facts she wants. She's going to have an opportunity to change the trajectory of the election.
Well, the states will certainly, they do their thing. Like they have their little investigations. But I guess there's a couple questions. One is, let's just say, like Don, you and I are, the normal process, like when you have these elections, is you're supposed to have screeners or people monitoring, right? So what happens is they appoint, say you got, 100 counties, and you have like 100 or a couple hundred people, one Democrat, one Republican. But these aren't just normal people. These are people like tech people. These are like guys who program stuff, who know software, who know connections. So, like Don and me, we sit there and like we're supposed to be 6 feet away looking at this. And if an election worker takes a vote out of an envelope that wasn't sealed, that was considered naked, we at that moment we're supposed to be able to raise our hand and say, I appeal that. Like bring over a supervisor comes, what's the issue? He just pulled an envelope that wasn't in a sealed envelope. It could come from anywhere. He could have handwritten it and like, oh, well, let's look at it. And then they go, oh, you've got to throw that out. That didn't happen. One of the, in fact, there's a guy, I think it's Patrick Collamer. He does a whole thing. He's done interviews. He's a tech guy. In fact, he helped program a lot of the stuff that they work with. And he was not allowed. He was like, they put him like 50 feet away, and they were telling other people, like, you're not on the list, so you're just out. And then when they tried to come back in, it's like, okay, you can watch 6 feet behind a rope that's 100 feet away. They couldn't mind. And then if you saw the video, like where they cover up the glass so people couldn't see in. And when other people were thrown out, like checkers, they were like the vote counters, they were applauding. Like, kind of like, they threw that asshole out. I mean, they were like, just yelling, like, get out of here. And I mean, it wasn't a civilized process. And here's the problem with that is this particular person, all during the night, he said, are you hooked up to your server? I can tell. Just give me over to the computer. I'll see if your USB is hooked up, because you can't go online live. And here's the issue. If, let's say, one person or two people said on an affidavit, I saw a bad deal. Like, if I get in a car accident and you're in the other car, it's my word versus yours, right, with the insurance company? But here's what's happened with me. If the other person has two people in the car and they say John hit him instead of they hitting John, they will side with the two-person witness. The second witness will go, oh, well, and then I would say, that's his friend. He's just lying. They said, it doesn't matter. It's two witnesses versus one. Imagine 10 witnesses seeing fraud. Imagine 100. They have over 1,000 affidavits of people. This counts as actual forensic evidence in a court case that they saw fraud. They saw illegal activity. They saw a breaking of the official rules. And in the court, a judge is going to go 1,000? Not like 50. These are separate people going, they changed votes, they, blocked me from access, on and on. There's going to be a big problem legally with this. And, like, local, they might say,
how about Lindsey Graham, though? The Georgia Secretary of State said that Lindsey Graham pressured him to find ways to toss legal ballots. Graham called the allegations ridiculous. But, however, the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, claims that Lindsey Graham contacted him directly and asked him to toss legal ballots.
He might. I think there's a certain thing, like if they were either after the hour or if they weren't processed properly, they're supposed to toss them. And so he's pushing that angle. I mean, he could fight that. But I guess what the issue will be is in an emergency, each of these judges in the Supreme Court, they're assigned to certain states. Example, Clarence Thomas, he's in charge of Georgia. I think Kavanaugh's in charge of Michigan, I believe, and Coney Barrett. Each one, they're in charge of these. So here's what's going to happen. This thing's going to come up, And I know they're not supposed to be biased, but Clarence Thomas is going to go. You remember Joe Biden accused me of raping, Anita Harris, or sexually
Anita
assaulting
Hill.
her. Anita Hill. That's going to be, he's not going to say, I'm really going to be nice to you, Joe. You tried to cook my ass on national TV in front of the whole country. I mean, he didn't score any points. Kavanaugh's going to sit there and go, you guys, Kamala Harris, you accused me of gang raping women in college, and you went after me to try to get me thrown off of my appointment. He might not. He's going to play. I'm not saying he's going to be biased, but what he's going to do is I'm going to
give Albert and Don a chance to comment, but on November 13th, 16 U.S. attorneys specially assigned to monitor malfeasance in the 2020 election urged Attorney Barr on that Friday, the 13th, to rescind his recent memorandum allowing investigators to publicly pursue allegations of vote tabulation irregularities. So there's also a federal investigation that is separate from William Barr that is cohesive and consistent with the results that have already been presented.
It could be. You guys want any comment on that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to be the only one speaking in.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're talking again, maybes, mights, could be's, should have been, and that's all. It's not going to happen.
Overall, Don's right. Don's right because even if their investigations look into voting irregularities or tabulation mishaps, it's going to be on a 3% or less scale.
Well, that's an interesting point. So you have 1,000 people that say they have issues, and you've got situations where you have over 100. You have about 60,000 votes come in at 4 o'clock, and 97% of them are for Joe Biden.
Have I been telling everybody?
Mathematically, that's a pretty.
Just go ahead. It's oh God, please stop. I've been talking about voter irregularities since 2008. It happens every election. There's no reason for a man to cry all in his panties over something that happens all the time. It's so sad to listen to this crap. That is, this has been happening for, I'm not even going back to 2002. These are things that happen all the time, and nobody needs to get abundantly overzealous about something that is regular. Is absolutely normal to have
whoever has tobacco knows to cut it off.
Okay, well,
if you can. Okay, my question is this: let's say there's 40 states that had a non-questionable victory for Biden, and there were only 5 states that had contentions for Trump or Biden. Now, Georgia has said hands down that Biden won. Pennsylvania said it. Michigan's, I'm not sure what they said. But what is there left to contest if California, Texas, and New York and Florida already know what happened? What's the point of contesting the other minor states?
Because it's not just the Democrats that wanted Trump out. This is a mandate on a person. That doesn't happen very often. But this is a mandate on a person, not this set of issues or what needs to be taken care of. This was about a person. And so that is what makes it so rare in that, we're talking 3 million votes that he actually lost in 16, and he actually lost almost 6 million votes this time. What is the uproar? What is the problem?
I guess the uproar would be who runs the software system? Or in other words, it's like, okay, you and I were voting for running for on office, right? And you go, well, who's going to count the votes? And we go, James Friend and Ilhan Omar and AOC are counting the votes. You go, you can't have them count the votes. If Soros' money or Sir whatever his name in England is on the board, and Feinstein's husband is a major investor, and the software's been used in Venezuela in the Smartmatic system in previous elections, like Obama. You start going, well, when did they start having these problems? Well, 2000 was that, hanging Chad thing. Well, I think the Bushes, flipped that one. I do. But
you can't distinguish what happened now and what happened who knows when with 2000 or 16, where there's still Putin controlled the election in 16. What little it effect it had. We had we've had Jeff the Bushes control 2 elections. We've had so many different elections that are controlled that this is a moot point, John. Give it up. Just quit.
Let's go from this area. Okay. You're posing a question. What if, using cyber, you track that these votes were manipulated and or they were sent through a router to Frankfurt?
So what?
No, listen, so what? So you're saying an outside country controlled the results of our election, and if votes were suppressed, you have a guy, Biden, didn't do one press conference. Kamala Harris didn't do one press conference. He didn't go anywhere, and he
just a minute, folks.
Well, because that Trump.
We have Ben on the line, so maybe Ben will straighten this out. And I did ask him. Okay, John and Don, stop for a minute. Now, just to give John a fair shake, I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs of this independent website called thecitizen.com. And then I'm going to pull Ben in, and then I'm going to let Albert have a say. In the early hours of November 5th, a surge of some 20,000 mail-in votes suddenly appeared for Joe Biden, while approximately 1,000 votes for Trump mysteriously disappeared from his own totals in the critical swing state, in which Biden held a razor-thin lead, and they're talking about Georgia. A poll watcher noticed a suspicious shift in the votes while monitoring the interim election results on the Georgia Secretary of State website. I concluded from looking at these results that there was an irregularity since there was no obvious reason for Trump's totals to have decreased while Vice President Biden's increased dramatically, said co-founder voter Garland Favorito, who swore an affidavit that he filed last week. Favorito suspects a variety of factors, including that the votes were artificially inflated for Biden while using the same Dominion voting system used by Antrim County, Michigan, which erroneously transferred 6,000 votes from Trump to Biden. Last year, Georgia contracted with Dominion to automate vote tabulations in all 159 counties. I'll read the rest of the article after Ben comments. So Ben, Don, and John are arguing about the voter irregularities of the last contest that we had practically a month ago. Well, you're discussing it, so I'm going to let you, John or Don, please fill Ben in what you were discussing.
No, I was listening. That was pretty good. But I don't know if this has been asked tonight or not. Don, do you actually think that Joe Biden got more votes than President Obama?
Yeah. The reason is because the Obama wins were first of all, they had a much lower voter participation, but because this was the highest.
Well, they didn't. By far. There was in this election. election, there was precincts that had upwards of 350% participation.
That voted. I know, and that's why I'm saying that this is something that that's going to have to be rectified in this upcoming election, because there is definitely improprieties that go on. So I know
they start looking into fraud and double ballots and illegal votes when you get in the high 80s of voter participation. So
right
up into the 100 plus, 125, 200%, and 300 in several places across the country. That says to me that too many people voted for Biden, and every single illegal vote cancels out the legal vote.
Right. Correct. I'm saying, get over it. It happens to both parties. It happens in virtually every election, especially the major ones. I've seen where in 2012, there was a time between 10:30 and 10:30 and about midnight, where all the polls did not report any votes, and then they started up again. In 2016, that time period was about 9:15, because I try to record these things. 9:15 to about 11 o'clock. Before 11 o'clock, there was no activity, and they started again. So these things are normal. They're normal.
Why were you saying get over it, though? Why were you saying get over it?
Because this whole thing, and I don't want to go into anything else. Let me just say that people suck. People are cheats. They're liars. They're criminals, and they're putting all.
Don't deal with it. Don't deal with it till the next election, or deal with it now.
No, I said
it's not fair to say get over it because your candidate won.
No, if my candidate didn't win in 16, and that was a voter fraud. My candidate didn't win in 2000 when that was a voter fraud. These are things that happen, and you have to kind of get over it. And that's what I mean.
Third world country.
That this is a third world country. You're not getting
this is the way that we've ended up.
We have
communists in our government.
We have, yes, and that's what.
Well, I would like to say that I never liked either president that's been in the White House, and so like for me, it doesn't. For me, you can't tell me that that the other one won because I think the other one won because I like the other one, and so I mean, if you watch the documentary called Hacking it's called Hacking Democracy. Again, it's called Hacking Democracy. It came out like half a dozen years ago. So Hacking Democracy, it's a documentary where they look at the voter fraud and stuff like that in the machines, where basically 99% of the voting machines are owned by Innocent and Diebold. Now they changed their name multiple times. For some reason, for whatever reason, they chose a reason, but they changed their name multiple times, so their name no longer goes there. But I still like to call them Ethernet and Diebold by basically their names from what I remember, even though they changed their names a lot. They keep on changing their names. But I mean, for me, from what I've seen, vote. It's not just voting fraud; it's also voter suppression. Standing in long lines and and all that stuff they do upon people.
How is long lines voter suppression?
Because if you look at the the election when Bernie Sanders was running strong back in trying to remember back in 2016. Back in 2016, when Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, and Phoenix, Arizona, they had over like 200 something polling places where you can vote, and they literally cut it to like about, I don't remember, there was like 40 or 20 polling places. So they literally, and they were looking at, and if you made the math before even the election came up, estimates were showing there were more people going to come to vote than last year, because we got internet, people know more, people are going to, all that stuff. Back in the day, we didn't have internet, we have all this social media. But anyway, so there was a lot more social media and stuff like that, and more. So the turnouts were expected to be big, and this was months ago before the election. So what they did is during the last few weeks in Phoenix, Arizona, for the 2016 election, they lowered down the voting polls, and so people were forced to stand in line for many hours, and it sucks because I went to Phoenix, Arizona, and I was knocking on doors and also calling.
Hold on, Albert. You're trailing onto another story. You're trailing into another story. You never answered about voter suppression. That does not equal voter suppression. Doesn't matter how long the line is. If you're in line before the voting place closes, you get to vote.
It is voter suppression because people have to work. People that work minimum wage, they're working 2 jobs, and they're gone the whole entire day. They can't be standing in line for 8 hours. They can't stand in line for 8 hours.
That's not voter suppression. They decide that going to their job is more important than voting. So that's not voter suppression. That's their own decision.
They have to go to the job. They're going to get fired, and then they can't pay their rent, and they become homeless. I
don't think one job that I've ever known will fire you for voting.
Ben is right about that one. You've got, hold on, no. Ben is right about that one. When you've got a voluntary ability to vote, even early vote, everybody has early voting day now. So you have that voluntary ability to do that. You really need to put that onus on yourself that you didn't vote.
Exactly. How seriously do you take voting? Like, if you don't take voting seriously, then that's not voter suppression. That's your ass.
But think about this. It doesn't fly perfectly for everyone. Sometimes people do apply to vote very early, and your application gets lost. Maybe during the mail, maybe during the process at the station. Things happen. It's not a perfect system. It's not like everybody that applies early gets to vote early. It doesn't work for 100% of the people. It happens to some people. Some people get screwed over, and or they're not in the system, or for whatever reason, you get dead people counting. Dead people vote every election. For some reason, there's always dead people voting.
Okay, now that's a problem. Yeah. That's voter suppression. That is voter. Finally, we got to something that equals voter suppression.
No, that's not voter suppression. That is voter fraud.
Yeah, it does. It actually cancels out a legal vote. If a dead person votes, it cancels out a legal vote. So that's suppressing a legal vote. That is the definition of voter suppression.
No, that is voter fraud, because they're using people that are already dead to vote, even though they're already dead.
Fraud.
And they're frauding them. That's voter fraud.
Yeah. It's also suppression of a legal vote. Every single fraudulent vote suppresses a legal vote. It cancels it out.
Well, I'm very odd how you view that as suppression, and more suppression than fraud, even though
it means more than what yours.
Albert. Suppression, fraud, they're all subsets of each other. And so, they're both subsets of each other. They're not, concentric, but they are adjoining. cohosts, but I mean, what do they call it?
Well, let's look at gerrymandering.
When they overlap.
Well, let's look at gerrymandering. Because gerrymandering cuts off the districts to make sure the gerrymandering is basically like a win or lose state, right? Winner takes all, right? And they cut the districts in whatever shape they see, because they already know the people that are registered as Democrats and the people that are registered as Republicans, and they're already, and so they know where the majority of people are going to already vote before they even vote. Obviously, if you're a Democrat and the only, let's just say, and Hillary Clinton is the nominee, is the only number one nominee during the election, of course, then you're gonna have to vote for Hillary Clinton if you're a hardcore Democrat. You're a Democrat, but same thing for Republican, right? I mean, you're in your party, then you're gonna vote for your party pick. But anyways, so you're rich. You have to register, of course, as a Democrat to vote for the Democrat and the Republican, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, so yeah, during gerrymandering, they look at that, and of course they look at other things. That they cut the districts in a way to get the majority of the people they want, so they can run that district.
I think we all understand what that is. Where they
you guys, we have Suzette on the line.
But I want to put that. I want to put that.
Suzette, you're on the air. Everybody, give each other a chance to talk. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, how's the new job going? Or your new promotion?
Hi, Suzette.
Hello.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hey, how's it going?
Going all right. Thank you. Yes, I believe somebody started a new job about a week ago. Anybody?
Not me.
I did.
Not me. Yeah,
about a month ago.
About a month ago? Okay. I thought, okay, never mind.
I was
Never mind.
looking for a job.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it goes. You're always looking for a job because, I mean, getting a raise, you're better at, statistics show that you're better at finding a job that's going to pay more than actually getting a raise from where you already work at.
Right. And that's because you've got culture that doesn't allow raises. And that doesn't allow new people to have a salary higher than their.
Is it just me, or Albert? I think you're breathing right to the microphone.
Maybe, I don't know. I'll move my phone more down.
Okay, yeah, just a little farther away because there's a lot of popping and breathing going on in the background.
Yeah, the existing employers will not pay a new employer more than existing employees. So that's just a kind of a business unsaid.
Yeah, and because of that, and of course I agree to that. I agree with what you're saying, but because of that, every time they move the minimum wage up, the only way for you to actually make more money is to quit your job and work somewhere else that's going to pay you more. So basically, you're moving from job to job to increase your pay, because of course, like the statistics show, they're literally and it's like nine times out of 10, you're just better off finding another job that's going to pay you better than actually getting a raise, and that's just really hard to get a raise. It's for most people.
Right, and that's the way it's designed.
And that system, and I think that kind of a system is corrupt because every time they move the minimum wage, they're moving the minimum wage up, and now you're back to working the minimum wage. Like say, if you were making $2 more an hour, like say you were making $10 an hour, the minimum wage is $8 an hour. Now the minimum wage is $10 an hour, and you're back to minimum wage. And now you're trying to ask for a raise. You're trying to ask for a raise. They say, hey, look, I just want to get paid the same thing I was getting paid before. But I want to get paid above the minimum wage. And then they say, oh, we can't do that. Even though they're charging more.
Like everything. It's like everything, though. Besides for price manipulation, that all corporations are guilty of. All these businessmen are crooks. But,
and I think the minimum wage should never be increased or lowered. It should stay the same forever. Because every time they increase the minimum wage, things just get worse. And it's a built-in system to keep the poor, poor.
But it's not, Albert. It's supply and demand. That's what this is all about. Everything is an economic formula, paradigm, and supply and demand. Just like anything else, people are a part of the supply and demand equation. And if a business capitalism would not work if 99% of the public were billionaires, right? If we had way too many rich people, there'll be nobody working at the bottom. There'll be no taxi drivers. There'll be no Uber drivers or people, So you're answering your own
question. Capitalism cannot work if 99% of the public are billionaires, right? It would not work.
But you're correct.
But you're correct. You're not saying anything. The majority have to be poor to work with the wealth. There has to be a small that, and the majority have to be poor. That's how capitalism works. And that's why the thing is, the built-in system is called the minimum wage, which they keep on increasing. And that every time they increase that, it just you know what I mean? It forces down to the bottom. It just doesn't work right.
It works fine. That's the way it's supposed to run. If it wasn't for the fact that all of these criminals, all these businesses, and these have such huge legal teams, all these businesses are breaking the law. So that's the problem. They're not being transparent, and they're all doing things that are against the law. That's the problem. If it were to work correctly, ideally, a utopian is by the fact that we do have a laissez-faire, capitalist system that everybody has an opportunity to make money and pay into the system. What happens is that the businesses don't pay enough. They don't pay taxes, and then they break the law by polluting.
The rich don't pay taxes because when you buy stuff, when you buy whatever product you buy, you have to pay for the tax. And then plus, on top of that, rich, especially rich people like Amazon, Google, or the big mega companies. I mean, they go through loopholes to literally pay zero in tax. The rich don't pay taxes.
That's because goofballs use the internet. Goofballs use the internet. Could you pick that up, please?
So, can we let Suzette say something?
Yeah, they don't pay state taxes, and they don't pay sales tax either when they're selling their stuff. You pay for them. Even when you buy a house, if the tax goes up and the house that you bought, guess what? You have to pay more for that house. So either way, the owner still makes a profit.
Okay. Anyhow, we started off talking about voting. Now we're talking about raising the minimum wage.
That right now, the voting and minimum wage and gerrymandering and LBGT and women's rights, they're all on the table. And so that they're kind of interwoven between them. Then just what rights?
Yeah, they cannot interlock each other. I mean, one combines with the other.
What is that,
American?
It said, what rights don't women have at this point? We're just about the most equal country in the world.
No, women.
Well, you try to tell that to the feminists.
Women still make.
Let's ask Suzette. Let's ask an actual female. Let's ask Suzette what she thinks about what I just said.
I think that we have all the rights that we want. What more do women want? I don't understand what they say that they want.
They still.
We have the opportunity to go get a job if we want to get a job. If we want to be a bodybuilder, we can be a bodybuilder. We want to be
the Suzette. They're making They're making 9 cents a dollar less than men.
No,
well,
Don.
if they're okay, it depends on the profession. For number one, number two, it also depends on if they're in a profession or not. Because if they're in a profession, then they have the ability to negotiate their salary, and if they don't, then that's on them because they weren't assertive. So that can't be an equal right that can be given to them. They have to do it themselves.
Yeah, and then women graduate college a lot more than men do.
Right now,
they go to not even they graduate college. I mean, they go to college. Period. There's a lot more women going to college than men are. That's a fact.
Tables are turning.
If you want to talk about inequality, why don't we talk about ideological inequality? Why aren't there more conservatives in social sciences? Why aren't there more conservatives in teaching positions?
Because teachers advise it, I guess.
Well, yeah, that could be just because people decide their own destiny and certain people don't choose those certain fields. I think they did these experiments where they left equality wide open and men and women kind of gravitated to what they were interested in, where the women still went into the social services predominantly, and the men still went into this, the STEM fields like the engineering and the building and construction and stuff like that. So when they leave it wide open for equality, the same damn thing happens that people are complaining about in this country.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I agree, and also too, you look at the police force. You know what I mean? You have a lot of conservatives at the police force. Not only that, you have a lot like you look at the three percenters in organization. The 3 percenters. A lot of them work at the police station, and you look at they're almost it's like they're the white power.
I wouldn't
like
say
a different white power organization. Yeah, and
what are you talking about? 3% of white power?
Yes, 3 percenters. Yes, white power organization. The KKK.
The
3 percenters is not KKK, but they're kind of similar. If you look at something.
I think you're a little confused here. Do you understand what the 3% actually represents?
Should it? Yeah, please tell me. Please tell me in your own words.
Okay, so the idea of the 3% was that 3% of the population during the Revolutionary War were actually the ones fighting. So the ones that were actually fighting to create the United States was only 3% of the population. So it's carrying that stigma, that mythology of the small percent of the people that are actually equipped and understand what they're willing to do and understand the meaning of the Constitution itself and what you would be willing to put on the line to preserve it or, in that case, create it. So that's what it means. It doesn't have anything to do with race. It has to do with rights.
Look online and look online for the 3 percenters their patch, and look at police's wearing the 3 percenters patch on their uniform. Look at that. You'll see some.
How does that say anything about race?
Well, you don't see any cops with some BLM, Black Lives Matter patches on their uniform. They're not they don't see that going on.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or Antifa. You don't see that. I'm just saying that the cop, that
wouldn't make any sense to me anyway. If I saw an Antifa flag on a police uniform, actually, I don't see any patches. I don't see any private network patches on a police uniform, period. I don't look at their tattoos usually. If cops have tattoos, I don't usually associate that with the uniform, but they're not allowed to put freaking patches on their uniform. But if I did see an Antifa patch on a police uniform, I would be a little worried about that because the entire mantra of the ideology behind Antifa is to crush the Western civilization. basically burn it all down and start over with World War II style communism.
Okay. Well, Antifa is anti-fascism. So you know what fascism is?
It's much more than that. If you can point your finger and call everybody that doesn't agree with communism a fascist, that's a hell of a lot different than saying you're just anti-fascist. If you just label everything that opposes your ideology as fascist, then your ideology is to burn everything down, basically crush every Western civilization, and start over with communism and anarcho-communism.
So you're with the three percenters and the Proud Boys. You know, you're those are your favorite groups, right?
I wouldn't say favorite. I don't associate with any group.
Would you say that you like those groups? Do you like? Let me ask you a question. Do you like the 3% groups and the Proud Boys? Do you like them?
Albert, let me ask you that question. Liking. Don't ask him
because here's the question: if you like the Proud Boys and the 3%ers, and you hate Antifa and BLM, then I can see where you're standing at.
Well, I don't like Marxism.
Oh God, help me! What kind of a question is that?
So that was an entrapment type of question. So if I'm more opposed to the ideology behind the creators of the actual, like what Black Lives Matter had in their website, they've deleted it now, but it's actually Marxist doctrine of destroying the family unit and crushing the Western civilization and capitalism itself. And that aligns with Antifa's motto that actually they predate the Nazis. So that's Antifa is a European organization, so that's foreign to the United States.
I got nothing but
the 3% network is
well, so here's the thing. It seems that
I'm showing you that
because there's a majority of the protesters. I mean, it seems like the BLM and Antifa are the majority of the protesters. So, which means that you don't want them going out there protesting, do you?
It depends what they do. Based on their historical record, no.
No. So you support the anti-protesters organizations, like the 3%ers and Proud Boys that go out there and
protect businesses from being burned down.
Yeah, and they go out there and then make sure to stop the BLM or Antifa from protesting. You know, so basically,
from burning things down.
If you don't want BLM and Antifa to protest, then you kind of like the way the system already is, right?
Actually, you're defeating your own purpose, because if you're aligning with Antifa itself, then you're automatically anti-police. So what do you think happens next after you get rid of the police?
I'm not aligning with Antifa, but I can tell you that I don't like the way the system is. And when I see protesting,
don't try to corner me, because I'll corner you right back.
I see a push for the change, you know, and I don't necessarily go out and, you know, hate protesters and, you know, every conspiracy theory throw at them and try to demoralize them and demonize them in any way possible. Okay, I'm not with Antifa and I'm not with BLM, but I do support some of the things they've done. Okay, not everything, but I do support them going out there pushing for a change, pushing for a change for police brutality. Okay, if you don't support BLM and Antifa pushing for police brutality, then there's something wrong with you.
Okay. You're still breathing in your microphone.
What do you think, Don?
Albert, half of this country, voted for a person like Donald Trump. So you've got to give them their respect for what they think, no matter what it looks like. And right now, we've got to heal. We've got to, instead of making accusations and throwing around I won't say slurs, but just things that are very, very difficult to answer. We just need to try to find the common ground that we can all work from, where we can make some progress here. We don't have a lot of time. 2024 is going to be here very, very soon. And we're going to need to get as much, the whole country, everybody is going to have to get as much work done as they can before this next cycle, which is going to be potentially debilitating on our psyche. We're going to be a country, as in 2024, that is going to be kind of harried. We're going to be out of our minds trying to figure out who our next representative is going to be. So just, I'm saying, just try to be a little civil with some of your questions, because they're really kind of to the point, maybe too much so. Just kind of respect.
Yeah, well, I never go extreme against, an organization that I don't kind of like. Even if I didn't like the Proud Boys or the 3%ers, I wouldn't go out of my way to go online and propagate any kind of crazy conspiracy theory that I hear about them and demonize them and, make them look horrible more than what they really are. I see them on video, okay? Because if I see a post on the web, I'm not just going to believe it. I see what I see on the video. I see these guys walking around with guns, all right?
But they've never used them.
Okay, pointing at
they've
people.
never used them. They're too scared to use them.
Try telling that to that kid. I'm trying to remember. What's his name?
Right?
No. Try telling that to the white boy kid that just they shot 3 protesters, killed 2 protesters actually. His name?
Oh, you mean he was a kid? His dad and mom.
What?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Kyle Rittenhouse. Yes, Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right.
He had a gun.
Kid.
But he had a gun, and he was out there with all these gun guys, right? I mean, he was out there with his gun, and and he was the good guys, right? The good guys with the guns, right? He was there with the gun, and what happened, right? So
he got chased by a mob, and the person that he blew the bicep off of was trying to shoot him in the head. So I don't know what your point is.
Nope. Watch. Look at the video carefully, okay? Look at the video.
I did.
During the whole entire video, he had a bag on him. I didn't know you noticed. Okay, he had a first aid kit bag on him. Okay. Now, if you look carefully, okay, multiple times he went up to people and said, "Hey, look, I got, I'm an EMT." He literally said that when he grew up, he wanted to be an EMT. So he was telling people he was an EMT, even though he wasn't, but he was for first aid. Now, when he shot this person over here, and by the way, it turns out the first person he shot was basically homeless, and so I mean, and literally all he did is throw a bag at him. By the way, this person didn't have a knife, didn't have a gun, didn't have anything. He just threw a bag at him, literally like a bag at him, and was yelling at him. But he shot him at a good 10 feet distance. He shot him, and he's a good shot. By the way, he's a good shot. He's a good shot. You watch the video. So he had his bag of first aid. By the way, he said he wanted to be EMT. He had a bag of first aid. He stood over his body for like a minute, right? Everybody was just standing there watching.
Hold the phone back. Hold the phone back.
He called his friend Black. By the way, he has a friend Black. Okay, his friend Black got the gun for him because obviously he was a minor. He wasn't old enough to get the gun. So his friend Black got him for him. Anyways, so he was standing over his body, called his friend Black, and then he ran away from the scene with the first aid kit that he had on him on the back. So, and multiple times he said that he wanted to help people with his first aid kit, but then he was standing over the body of the person he shot in the head, and decided to run. When you don't hit and run. Okay? That's number one. You don't hit and run.
Sorry, he was trying to flag down the police officers that were coming down in their vehicles to tell them what was going on.
First of all, the police officers were 2 blocks away from when he shot the first person. After he shot the second and the third person, then yes, the police officers were right up next to the block. And by the way, the police officers, they were really close to that. He just walked by there and they didn't pull him over or nothing. They just
Albert,
by the way, the report showed. If you look at the recording, you look at the police recordings. They said, "Oh, we have a black suspect." They said it was a black man. They shot these people, and they were looking for a black man. But everybody kept on screaming, "It was that guy, and he was a white guy. It was a white guy." And then later they had to update it to a white guy.
Right? Albert, hold your phone farther away from recordings. Your microphone is so sensitive, man. I can hear every single. It's like pop, 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 pop. Stop. Like hold it farther away. We can hear you fine.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten a complaint with Don or anything. I don't know. Maybe your volume is too high.
No, I can hear everybody else clearly, but you are so staticky because it's so close, and it's like picking up everything. It's like maxing out your microphone. Just hold it a little farther away.
All right. Well, I just want to make sure we can hear you, but okay.
Because I've seen it from both sides. I've seen interpretations of all of the angles of all of the videos, and I've seen it from both sides, and I've heard it skewed against him to make him look like a 17-year-old white supremacist. But if you've ever been chased by an angry mob of people, do you think if you're going to defend yourself,
there was no mob chasing
you're going to put yourself at the risk of an entire mob coming towards you?
They only chased him after he hit and run. After he ran after the first person he shot. By the way, he was standing over that body for 1 minute. He called black, and then he made a run for it. And then people say he's making a run for it. He's running away. You know, he's trying to get away. And then that's when they chased him. But nobody was bothering him when he shot and killed the first person.
He had a gun to protect the businesses from being burned down. It was actually, I think, his friend's business to help.
No, actually, no. It wasn't his friend's business, black or anything. By the way, they tried to make an interview. He denied an interview that he was supposed to pay Cal Rittenhouse, because Cal Rittenhouse said during the report that he thought he wasn't going to get paid. He thought he was going to get paid to protect these businesses, but it turns out they didn't pay him, and they kind of, you know what I mean, separate their way. They didn't want to get involved with Cal Rittenhouse, so they didn't even want to talk to the reporters.
Why would you give an interview before your court date?
Well, the dealers from the car salesmen, like the ones that the Cal Rittenhouse protect, they didn't want to do an interview. They didn't want anything to do with Cal Rittenhouse. Now Cal Rittenhouse, he already had his interview with the police. I mean, he already has personal things to say, and of course, he said that he regrets nothing. I mean, one thing I would regret is coming out there with a gun in the first place. I mean, you're talking about self-protection, self-defense. Best self-defense is staying home. Okay? You see what's going out there? You see a riot going out there? Just stay home. Don't go out there with your gun pointing at a bunch of people, because it's going to you're just going to make things worse.
You're talking like somebody who doesn't have children. So the best way to not get punched in the face by a child is give them everything they want, right? Always give a child everything they want so they don't punch you in the face.
And that's the
fact. Is everyone getting a chance to talk?
He traveled 50 miles.
Are you guys getting each other a chance to talk?
That's the fastest way you can get punched, Ben, and you know it, is to give your kids everything.
I don't know. Well, what I'm saying, it's a metaphor for what's been happening. All these protests, America's pissed off. It's a protest, okay? Like, how many businesses and how much traffic are these people going to stop? Well, these, the traffic that they're stopping is paying for all of the services they're receiving, all of their, like school funding. And, if any of them are on social services, then these people that are on social services blocking traffic from you getting to work or getting home from work, it's defeating the purpose of trying to get people on your side. That's when you get people so pissed off that they just gun it and run you over because they want to get home or they need to get to work. The hell out of the way.
Or that's the
and by the way, punches are coming from all sides of all organizations. It's not just for everyone that you like to talk about, but I would say that all the organizations are guilty of that.
What favorite one that I like to talk about?
BLM and Antifa. That's the only ones you like to accuse. I never hear you talk about the other organizations. I mean, like what the 3% did wrong, or maybe what the Proud Boys did wrong, or maybe what the Boogaloos did wrong, and they just you never say anything bad about them, and they're not perfect, and they're definitely not perfect, but you seem to have a one-sided tunnel vision, like a tunnel vision that only finds bad upon those certain people.
Well, when you see over and over and over this group pop out when they were under Obama and now under Trump, constantly. And the other groups you hear very little about as far as any type of disruption. The Proud Boys aren't any type of white supremacy. I thought we established that in the last episode that I was on with you. So, you keep bringing them up as a white supremacy.
If you give me a minute.
And you've had more than a minute. Pardon me, but you have. Does anybody else agree that Albert's been talking most of the time?
Yeah, but I just want to ask you a quick question. You said that you hear a lot from those organizations, but where do you hear from them? CNN, ABC? Can you please tell me?
I see them from their own videos, posting on Facebook, posting on YouTube, posting on Twitch, themselves showing what's going on. So I don't need to hear it from the news. I see it from their own cameras, their own cell phone cameras, and other independent journalists that are out there during these escapades going on. So, I don't need saying them to tell me anything.
Yeah, I've even seen their actions broadcast from Antifa and Black Lives Matter's phones. And I'm like, oh, that actually adds context to the videos that the news has.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, okay, so that's the rest of the story. So you see one action, you see one white person assault a minority or whatever, and that's the story. But then when you see all the other angles, you see how everything got escalated, how everything was set up from other angles. A lot of times, sometimes there is a bad action from a bad person or a bad actor. Sure. But the media looks for that 1 5-second clip, and it just spreads like wildfire.
Okay,
and you know what a perfect example? One moment. When you know what a perfect example of that is whenever we talk about, or I personally, my personal experience, have talked with people and asked them, okay, so why is Trump a white supremacist? They go to Charlottesville. Every single time, Charlottesville. That's all you have to point to is just Charlottesville. That's it.
All roads lead to Charlottesville. Good people on both sides. And if you're trying to tell me there wasn't good people on either side, then you're not like into humanity, because there has to be good people on both sides at any protest, right?
Well,
it can't be
yes
all
and no.
extreme.
I mean, they. I think what he was referring to were the people that had went about it the right way and got the permit. They weren't a part of either group that had, ended up doing the things that they did to each other. But there was a group that initially, and they were, I believe, white supremacists, but they had gotten a legal permit to be there to protest about the statue being taken down. And then it was invaded by other groups that ended up causing all the turmoil. But nevertheless,
not only invaded.
when you say what white supremacist, what's going on? How is he related, or how does he support, or Charlottesville? Okay, give me something else. Well, that should be enough. One incident, okay. No.
Not only invaded.
Not after the numerous ones that are, are Antifa.
Yeah, but
Trump didn't really say anything about Charlottesville, except there's good people on both sides. He was trying to relate to both arguments. He wasn't trying to relate to the extremists. He was trying to relate to the moderate sides of both arguments.
And let me put it this way. I don't like violence. I condone any, I do not like any violence, okay? Violence is wrong. But look at this. When you have, the BLM, when the Black Lives Matter movement, when they get 10,000 people in a protest, 10,000 people protesting with them, okay? 10,000 people. Are you going to say that they're all officially from BLM? So one guy goes and breaks a window, punches another guy? You're going to say, oh, that's a BLM, because he was, because he
let me put that in perspective then. If I went to go protest for my rights and I found out I was in a crowd with a person on a megaphone who was talking about white power and all this stuff, I would say, oh, this protest is not for me.
Yeah, but let me put it this way. Not everybody that's in the protest with BLM, just because they're there with BLM.
No, I don't think you even heard my point.
Look, there's people that go out there, they only want to riot and loot. They want to steal stuff. They protest.
If I have a valid, hold on.
And they act like they believe in an organization, but their only goal is to steal stuff and break stuff. They can care. They can give a flying shit about the organization that they're following on the street, because so you can't say that 100% of all the people are with the protest are going to agree and officially be with them. You can't say that 100% of the people
become the mob.
Because
what about the million
white power does not. The white power organization like KKK, they have small organizations, and when they have their own little protest, it's a small protest. They got small protests. So what happens when KKK has a small protest? They're not going to have a lot of rioters breaking into windows and stuff like that, because there's not a lot of people. But when BLM has a protest and they get 10,000 people, you're going to have that shit's going to happen, and not all of them are going to be officially with them.
But a moment ago, you said it doesn't matter who they're marching for or what they're doing, they're going to intercede and start causing trouble. So we're having peaceful rallies or protests. The Trump supporters are a big one in D.C. and then in other places, and there's been no problems. And people
I never said exactly that, but I said that it's not. It
wasn't problems until the counter protesters came and started beating people up and throwing fireworks at everybody.
Right. And then they, the rally people or Trump supporters, whatever, dispersed. But they didn't start going
They actually came. These people came out in the dark.
There have been no protests ever since. That's because we've been able to rebalance and begin to start all over again. The Phoenix has risen.
Yeah, but who is in control, Don? You should know. You're at a higher level than the people on the ground. You're at a higher level. So who's making the calls on where Black Lives Matter and Antifa show up? Who is making those calls? Because somebody has said, okay, let's stand back a little bit.
They're calls just like anything else with the internet.
Facebook, Instagram.
They are able to transmit the next March protest, whatever you want to call it, and they send 3 or 4 of their operatives there. So it's they're likely to be anywhere in the country at any time there is a March protest situation. So we're looking at Antifa getting larger. Made up a lot of educators, college professors, things like that. Just like you went on the litany before, when we first came on, that Antifa is, what was it you said?
They're a foreign organization that predates the Nazi Party.
Right, and that for like Albert says, anti-fascism. But
they were actually opposing Muslims.
Yeah, well, I mean, fascism comes in culture, but that's what the name is, anti-fascism. That's their name. So
Antifascista was the original name. So it's a foreign organization. Can you imagine if we had I don't know.
Well, the CIA has a lot of foreign organizations.
But you're
not gonna hear an argument for me. I'm no fan of the CIA. They got their hand in all the world's problems. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not a fan of the CIA.
And that's not. I don't think you said you were a fan, Ben. But the bottom line is that this stuff is all directed by those leaders in power, and some of it by the director, by the president. And we're talking any president. It doesn't matter what time or where it is. It is the president's job. It's on the president's watch.
No. On his watch, he's got to deal with it. But it's supposed to be considered grassroots, which it's not grassroots. This thing is organized and funded, calculated.
It has no purposeful leader. It has no absolute leader. There is no organization, no board, no nothing like that that can defend
it. Leader from being, and it has fighting.
BLM has no leader. BLM, the movement has no leader. BLM, the organization, has a leader, but not the movement.
Sure it does. Whoever pays them the money.
The movement does not receive money. The movement is grassroots volunteers that are going out taking the BLM idea. That's what you don't.
Well, if they have a leader, give us the name of the leader.
The BLM movement is different than the BLM organization.
Well, right now it's that white guy, right? Sean something, right?
For BLM?
Yeah.
Or no.
They don't have any official number one. No.
They do have the organization has official. The three ladies are still the head of BLM. I forgot their name. They're out of
Sean King, right?
No, Sean King's not at head of BLM. But the bottom line is that the organization. What I'm saying is the organization and BLM movement is like many others where they don't have a leader.
He takes the orders and passes the orders down the line. So there is a structure of leadership.
No.
They don't get what I'm saying. It's a coalition, but there is a structure of leadership.
No. There is a structure of leadership in BLM organization.
That's what I just said.
But the BLM organization is small. The BLM movement is the BLM that's writing on the chalking on the streets and putting up the signs and doing all of those smaller things. The organization is simply a titular head, a three-headed person.
Could say the same thing about the America First movement. So there is leadership behind America First policy, but then everybody that joins that says, how about let's deal with our country before we.
There is no leader.
Our money
There is no leader. Well, let's talk about the leader of one of the leaders of Black Panther, and her name is Sister Sharks, and she took the silent in Cuba, because they were the FBI and the CIA were after her. And when you closely look at her records, she was the main organizer of Black Panthers, and you know, and she wasn't out there running around with, you know, with guns and shooting people or anything like that. She didn't do anything bad, per se. You know, all she did was trying to organize protests and stuff like that. You know, trying to, you know, just she was an activist, right? But now she's in Cuba. Now she's in Cuba because she went to seek asylum because the FBI was after her. You know, they're harassing her, and they were trying to book her for no good reason.
Just trying to organize communism in a non-communist country.
But she's not the only one. There's other black women, you know, or, you know, black people. They have to literally run away because they you know, when they become the main organization, the organization becomes way too big or way too organized. The FBI is going to come after you. The CIA, the DEA, they're going to be all over you. The BLM, they get followed by the FBI. Literally, they follow the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The FBI, they're all over BLM like crazy.
Right. Yeah. Nobody's scared. Nobody is scared. That's what these freaking pieces of crap leaders don't understand. That nobody is scared of them. Nobody wants to sit underneath their thumbs and listen to them.
Well, they have had a reason to be afraid of the FBI for a long time. Anybody that's corrupt hasn't had any kind of reason to be afraid of the FBI. The FBI is in bad standing with America right now.
Well, Martin Luther King wasn't at the time corrupt, and then he was followed for the rest of his life. I mean, the FBI is not infallible, and you know, Trump had a lot of good points.
Yeah.
About
and the funny thing is, the FBI was following him like that. The DEA, they were following Martin Luther King really hard. They were really hard, and somehow he got murdered under their supervision. They were there, and they couldn't stop them from him getting murdered. So exactly. You know, I mean, the Secret Service was there. They can't do anything to stop from being murdered. So what's wrong with that?
That's everything. That's what I'm saying.
Same with JFK.
What I'm saying, Albert, I've told you for years that it's no longer time to talk. It's time to get active. Yeah, I've been asking you to go to your legislators with some of your problems. They'll listen if they find them, you know, important or relevant or whatever you want to call it.
Not if they're on the other side of the aisle.
It depends.
At this point, there is division that is not. It's not worth listening to for our ruling class.
Well, all I know is that coming up into a legislative session. As you know, I'm a citizen lobbyist, so I'm coming into a legislative session with the express interest and focus in making sure I get all of my legislation passed that's bipartisan across the aisle. I know that you know, there's some hurt feelings on both sides out there, and just like you said, Clarence Thomas and revenge, things like that, you know, are going to be prominent in a lot of people's minds. But we've got to,
of course, that's something that I even disagree. Well, I wouldn't say I disagree with. It's unfortunate that revenge is going to undermine anything that Clarence Thomas does in the future against Joe Biden's administration. Fake administration. It hasn't been declared yet, other than by the media and other world leaders who decided to jump on the bandwagon of what the media did against the United States citizens. The vote wasn't even counted yet, and the media declared a winner. That should be a crime. And then other world leaders congratulated a fake winner based on a media report, not a vote count.
Well, the mainstream media does that every election. You know,
no, they don't. Actually, this is kind of unprecedented. They usually wait for the electoral college to declare and then congratulate.
Well, let's look at 2016 because I'm telling you, the media does it every election. But at 2016, when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were running, before the primaries, in the election, when all the Democrats were running, there was Bernie Sanders against Hillary Clinton. Now, Hillary Clinton had a large majority of the super delegates, and she literally had like 95% of the super delegates. And so, and by the way, the super delegates, they get to vote like a month early before the regular delegates, and the regular delegates are actually, voted in by the people that vote. But the super delegates are Democrat Party officials. And they were all voting for Hillary Clinton, and the mainstream media was really high over and over. Said that Hillary Clinton was winning before anybody even got to vote for Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, that was just on the Democrat side.
Yeah. Well, actually, the Republicans, they also got super delegates, but they don't call them super delegates. They call them unpledged delegates, which, it's the same thing as super delegate. They have their VIP, well-establishment unpledged delegates, and they have the power to change the vote.
Okay. What do you think so far, Suzette? Is John even on the phone anymore?
Sorry, what was the question?
I haven't
heard
John in a while.
I was going to ask you to chime in.
Oh, okay. I was busy looking up an organization called Momentum, as well as the Sunrise Group. But Momentum is one that is not really on the radar anywhere. And this group is a training institute and movement incubator. It says we give progressive organizers the tools and frameworks to build massive decentralized social movements by combining and systemizing best practices from past movements, critical movement theory, and applicable skills. We encourage organizers to dream about big change and give them the tools to make it happen. Now it says, what does Momentum teach? We see two dominant traditions of organizing in the United States: structure-based organizing and mass protest. In the structure-based tradition, developed by Solowensky and other organizers, start with one-on-one relationships to develop leadership and build a base that can advocate for the needs of particular constituencies. They're structure-based organizations. They show them basically they're runners that will go and have, they're responsible if there's a protest to deliver water to people, to deliver food to people, if they've been out there for a while, but that's their particular job. Then you have others that are assigned to do other things. It's pretty interesting that they have no problem putting it on the internet, and they're trying to recruit. But again, since they're not really on the radar, who would think to look for a company or an organization called Momentum? But it's momentumcommunity.org. And then you go to their about page. Again, momentumcommunity.org. Now, Sunrise, since they've been more recently on the out in the public eye, so to speak, and that first happened with Nancy Pelosi when they went to go visit her about climate change. And so they're a little bit more in the public eye than Momentum. And so they're a little bit more discreet about who they are and what they do, but they are connected with Momentum. There's let's see, Momentum, Black Lives Matter, Movement, Net Lab, Uprooted and Rising, 350, and it's got an arrow, so I don't know what that means. IF, not now, if not now, that's the group, another group. Ignitic, NC, Resource Generation, Ohio Student, Citizen Well, Power Shift, Dream Defenders. These are all organizations teaching the same thing, which is these tactics. And like I said, they're said it right there on their page. And again, momentumcommunity.org. Now they have a video. They recruit and they psych these kids up. They're young adults. They do their chanting.
Yeah, and so
laugh, but it's scary because they do mass mobilization. That's their goal.
Yeah, and Don, you don't strike me as a Satanist. So all of these things that are taking Saul Alinsky's tactics and using Marxism, I know, Albert, you're a proud atheist, but that doesn't mean proud Satanist. Don, you don't strike me as a Satanist. And a lot of this stuff is, if you trace it back to the roots of the minds behind how this stuff works, they are. So how do you fit into this? That's what I'm trying to figure out. You're actually using the tactics and tools of
like
the creators that were Satanists.
You're sounding like Albert right now. I didn't.
Well, no, this is an honest question. Saul Alinsky dedicated his book to Lucifer.
And you know what? I have never been a proponent of Saul Alinsky.
But these tactics and these measures and everything, the ideology behind it is, a lot of it can be attributed to him and Karl Marx.
Yes, well, the thing is that you got to understand that the NAACP, our organization, I am a major player in locally, especially, but also known nationally. We're the ones who developed these things before Saul Alinsky, before Stalin. You know, we were there
before Stalin.
Same time as we were there at the same time. You know, we were developing our NAACP. These are things that we're fighting against. We're not. We're totally anti Satan. You know, this is something that the organizations are developed to fight people like that, to fight, you know, Planned Parenthood and all actuality. You know, the eugenics that is proposed by what's her name? I forgot her name for a second.
Margaret Sanger.
Margaret Sanger. You know, she was a racist, stone cold racist. She wasn't even a racist. She was just a hater. She was a bigot, and so were half of those other people. And that's why we're tearing down these symbols and signs and statues, because those things that people like Saul Alinsky propose is not what we want, or at least the originator is not the type of person, characteristic that we are looking for. So I don't.
Yeah, but hold on. Let's pause right there and let's talk about Bill Gates Sr.
Bill Gates Sr. sucks. He's the
But now what do you have? You have the legacy of Bill Gates himself pretending to be a doctor, and look at what's going to happen next. This COVID brainwashing has crushed the economy, diminished the individual worth, and taken away rights that are guaranteed worldwide. I'm not talking about constitutional rights in the United States. I'm talking about worldwide human rights.
Human rights were
and the next thing, hold on. The next thing that you're going to be faced with is, if you want to go anywhere, they're not going to make it mandatory to get the vaccine, but if you want to go anywhere or work or get food, you're going to have the vaccine.
Now, this is the best. Rights were taken before. This is the hold on, Albert, hold on for a second. This is the best thing for minorities in the 20th, 1920 in the last 400 years. This is going to allow for income pullback in inequality. So we're going to have a little bit more income equality and less disparity because of this one pandemic. All right, go ahead, Albert.
Wait, how?
Because of all the things you just said. They're going to bring down the economy. That's what minorities are looking for, is reverse reparations, if you want to call it that. Where we're going, the people who are people of color who are disenfranchised are going to have the opportunity to have time to balance out some of the income disparities. That's why it's important to get things like $12 to $15 minimum wage. That's why it's important to get reparations. That's why it's important.
Gosh.
Okay. Let me tell him what I was trying to tell him a while ago. If I could tell him what I was telling him a while ago.
Everybody got to.
Okay, so the paradigm has shifted based on your statement, Don. So the paradigm has shifted. This whole time, I have been butting heads with Albert, and Suzette, I think, has been butting heads with Albert. And now, based on your statement just now, I'm aligning more with Albert, and I think Suzette has just rejected what you just said too. I don't want to speak for her, but
I want to say something of what you said 20 minutes ago, because I haven't got a chance. That, by the way, you said that the freedoms, they could be taken. Our freedoms have been taken already in America before. If we go back to 1942, during the World War II, when they started arresting good law-abiding citizens, Japanese law-abiding citizens, by the way, they were taken to these internment camps, and all this, and they were gone for quite a while. So their houses and apartments got broken into, and they lost a lot of their stuff when they finally got back. But anyways, our freedom has been taken away before. And by the way, let me go back to what you said basically 20 minutes ago. I kind of got it just a bit because it was 20 minutes ago. But you guys referred to me as the atheist, or believe in the devil or whatever. But
I didn't. No. I said that you have admitted being atheist on the show before, so I remember that. I didn't call you a Satanist.
Okay, well, I'm not really per se exactly atheism. I'm kind of like there's a different term, and it's called agnosticism. Agnosticism. Well, it has the schism. It's got the schism at the end. It's hard to pronounce. Agnosticism. Anyways, so basically, it doesn't mean like, oh, you're close. It means that you're open-minded. So you don't know there's a God yet because it hasn't been proven. It hasn't been proven that God's out there, but you're open-minded to the possibility. Now, here's the thing. The problem is with this God that everybody wants to say, oh, God. The problem is everybody under religion, especially God, had committed murder. If you look at all these people that believe, all these countries of God, the war has been fought more under the belief, under their belief, right? You have different beliefs, right? But when you're talking about war in a sense of when it comes to belief, they will fight to the end, and so yes, more people have killed on the belief of God than the non-believers.
That's not true.
Yep. Look at the United States under
that's
God,
not necessarily true. But if it was true, then you're still talking about man.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the Dark Ages, right? The Dark Ages when the king and queen, right?
I understand the Crusades. I understand all of those holy wars and the Crusades and everything. I understand.
Yeah. But it still kind of happens even today. Even today it happens, but not openly. Okay, it doesn't happen openly, but it happens.
Yeah, but you also have people like General Mao and Stalin and Lenin and all of these things and Karl Marx. I'm not saying Karl Marx killed millions of people, but that is coming from the atheistic point of view. And basically the lack of God has created genocides as well. So, and it gets really, you're starting to split hairs when you're talking about who killed more, which ideology killed more. But the golden rule is that's not really followed in any war.
looking at United States, right? Like we only have like 10 commandments. In other countries, under this God, we have different commandments, right? Some countries have 7, some have 9 commandments. So I mean, if God
my point 20 minutes ago,
countries have different amount of commandments. And here's the thing: under the commandments, they have to literally be stipulated. They literally have to renew the Bible and the stipulation because they forgot about slavery. I think you're missing my point, though. I think you're missing my point, though, because 20 minutes ago, what I meant was we're getting new commandments by the day because of COVID. Yes, and all this mighty and this perfect being God, this perfect God, and of course, like you said, we're getting new commandments by the day, like literally, So the system under this God is not perfect, and that's because it was built by people, and the people. Yes, which it means the same business as usual. The same business as usual. People trying to control other people. Business not doing it on behalf of God. It's the same business as has been in the Dark Ages a long time ago, and the same business has been now. Other people trying to control other people, and that's how this, all these religion businesses are. Okay. Suzette, so going back to what Dawn
15 minutes,
said.
guys. 15 minutes.
Suzette, okay. So going back to what Dawn said, I didn't want to speak for you, but I cringed when Dawn started saying about this COVID being the great equalizer for minorities. That's a UN standpoint.
Start cringing. Keep on cringing, then. Keep on cringing.
Not cringing, man. I was cringing big time. But were you?
But it's an after effect, or it's a result, or whatever you want to call it. It is a result of COVID. It's a more equal economy.
No, we had equality. We had equality where it didn't matter what your race was. You could make something of yourself. Now we have all of the small businesses of people. No. Hold on. Hear me out. As of like midsummer, we lost 1,400 small businesses just in my state. Over 100,000 small businesses worldwide. Nationwide. But all of our money has been diverted to the corporations that have the biggest lobbying firms for the people who say get money out of politics. The hard left people that are telling us that we need to get money out of politics have diverted our business to the corporations with the biggest lobbyists. Well, yeah, but too big to fail. When they're too big to fail, they have a lot of money to buy a lot of lobbyists to push for their laws that favor them. Right. Yeah, that's why included in the Stay Home, Stay Healthy plan that my governor enacted in March, he cut off all of the hair salons, mom and pop diners, bars, restaurants,
income equality,
residential construction, you name it. Everything got wiped out except for Burger King, McDonald's, Albertsons, Safeway, Walmart, Target. Everything that was big in the first place, that was too big to fail in the first place, got a boost. When it comes to income and inequality, United States sucks. They get really bad. And I'm talking about. I'm not comparing third world countries. Third world countries is a different story. But I'm talking about fully developed countries. When it comes to fully developed countries, the United States sucks when it comes to income inequality.
Look at Amazon, how they made out like bandits. Jeff Bezos with this lockdown because people had to order things online. These internet companies, eBay, mostly Jeff Bezos. He cashed in. And so who has stock in Amazon? The congressional members.
All of them. Yeah. And he got so powerful that he decided to buy, Wall Street? No, Washington Post. He bought Washington Post, right?
Yeah.
Because he can create his own business with the media. He can manipulate the minds of the consumers. He learned that, and he can use a giant media platform. That's insider trading in my book.
Oh yeah, definitely insider trading. I agree.
Well, that's kind of
I agree with you, Ben.
propaganda machine.
I agree with you, Ben, but the thing is the fact is that it is overall an economic equality situation. After all, and you're right, that money went into the top, more money went into the top 1%.
Yeah, 1%, only 9%.
But their consumer is so stupid that they're going to continue spending their whatever.
Yeah, but Don, the problem is it's not that the consumers are stupid; they've been backed into a corner.
Stupid. They're stupid. You don't.
No,
use them.
their options have been limited by the governors and mayors.
You don't have to use Amazon though. You don't have to use Amazon. You got all kinds of
My initial point is that you are talking about equality and the Great Reset being a beneficial thing to the people that you represent, but you're coming down parroting the same narrative that the UN is. And they are the ones, the World Health Organization, the UN, the Global Economic Forum, all of these people are saying what you're saying. You're just twisting it down into a personal level, but you're saying the same message they are. You're covering for their ass.
No, I'm not covering for any bitch who's out there, period. They're all bitches. But the bottom line, I'm not covering for them. I'm just stating what is the obvious, what is happening now. I'm in the ground. I see this stuff from the bottom up. And this is what is happening. Our housing is going through the roof because the reason they're not giving out any more welfare, the CARES plan is nothing but welfare, but we've got too much liquidity in the system. We've got too much money, and they know it.
No, they created the need for welfare when they started manipulating people's private businesses. That's not the function of government.
They were manipulating. They were giving out the welfare before. That Obama gave out the welfare when in the last crisis.
I'm not talking about welfare. Well, they're talking about creating the need for
the minimum wage. They created welfare with the minimum wage by increasing the minimum wage and allowing inflation to triple or quadruple than what the minimum wage was increasing. And that's how they created the welfare.
I made more money when interest rates were at 8% than I ever made when they were at 0.5, which is now. I made much more money at 8% when there was money that was flowing through the Clinton administration, and he was coming up with doggone zero balances. As much as I can't stand that family, I got to give him credit that he was coming up with zero deficits annually. And that was the last time that happened. Clinton.
We've already been over this. He sold our military secrets to our enemies, so of course we had a good economy.
No, I mean, that wasn't the reason for the economy. He just did that for
it was.
Well, listen, China and the U.S. are definitely not allies. And by the way, if he really sold really important stuff, he would have been in jail by now.
They don't go to jail.
No, of course they don't. They're too powerful.
Anybody that voted for Biden on this election had a hand in selling our country out to China and the UN.
Well, but they also had a hand in taking it back from Russia. So I think that equals everything else.
China is not allied with America. It doesn't matter who the president is. Trust me, they have well-positioned powers to make sure that the United States is a non-complete sellout and throw their freaking life away and all their money away to China. I mean, China is actually allies with Russia and Iran and South Africa and Brazil. If you look at BRICS, that's
no, not Brazil.
Look at the NATO allies, especially because America, especially allies with Saudi Arabia, and America's especially allies with other countries. If I remember, like one of the favorite countries of America would be Israel. Israel is America's favorite country.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah, but China is definitely nowhere near America's favorite country. Nowhere near. I mean, America is not. They're not in bed with China. I can tell you that.
And that. But go ahead, Suzette.
What's up, Suzette?
I think the pandemic accelerated what has been in the works for a long time, and little by little, things like with this pandemic now, we have quantum airlines that are working a plan, so you can't fly unless you prove that you have had a vaccine. And other airlines are jumping on board with that, so they're trying to figure out how they can do that. They're going to lose business, but that's not on their mind right now. They're talking about doing that. There's